What if I told you that everything you know about finding property deals is wrong? Today we're talking to the man who's actively breaking the systems we already know. Meet Gian, a property investor who got so frustrated searching for deals, he analysed thousands of them to find the hidden patterns and even built an app to supercharge the process. In this video, we'll be covering how to boost your income through property, how to stop wasting your time on dead-end deals, and how to streamline your deal finding process. Let's dive right in. I am joined today in the studio by someone who needs no introduction. This is Gian, co-founder and CEO of Property Filter, which is a piece of property software which is taking the property world by storm. Gian, it's really great to have you here in the studio with us today.
John, thanks so much. Great to be here indeed.
Now, obviously you weren't always in property. There's a point in time where we have to make that transition. So tell us a bit about your background. Who is Gian? How did you arrive at today?
So before we turn on the subtitles, I have to, the big disclaimer is that I'm French, originally from France. I moved in this country in 2016. Been doing property in France since 2012. As I was expat, building bridges around the world. And then before I quit and went full-time in property in 2021, and that was what I was doing, like working for the Langorogs, the Costains, and, those big, Vinci and Balfour Beatty, like these big contractors in building bridges, basically was what I was doing. And then, I started to hated it, for at some point. And I remember I was listening to the Progressive Property podcast at the time. That was back in the days with Peter Jones,
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I remember, I think the first property event I would have gone to was like a PPN in Birmingham at the time. And then I think Rob came to speak and stuff like that. And then, the rest is sort of history. So I quite like the common sense stuff, So building teams, building stuff is what I've always been passionate about, to a point where just my career as I was growing was getting more and more commercial and less delivery and execution. So I started just literally crying on my way to commute, on my way to work on the commute, like this is not for me, right? So, and obviously property was quite appealing. And then property in the UK is just magic, right? So in France, you don't get interest-only mortgages. You can get to refinance to raise more equity out of, so you can't do BRR or recycle your pot, So for me, it was like, okay, this is it. Went into property, you go on the seminars, you buy the books, and then you go out in the streets and you speak with vendors and agents, And then the reality is that I was just going for it, me and the guys we work with, which is whatever we do, we are 200%. But I find myself actually, I think was quite challenging, You think it's going to be easy. All you need is to do and go and find deals. And the reality is I probably spent a good 18 months of doing 20 viewings a week, balancing work and stuff. And then just achieving very little, to a point where you got Mrs. Black would tell me, oh, we don't do anything anymore. Is your property this, your evenings, your weekends, And I get it, lots of people might find themselves in this pinchy position there where, you are building the momentum at the start, but you're not quite there yet. We really struggled, we'd be randomly booking viewings based on the pictures, the layout, you turn up at viewings, no one wants to do a deal. Or we'd start to say, okay, direct to vendor's got to be the way, right? So we start to send loads of letters, spending 500, 800 pounds a month on stuff. You get the phone calls, but, French guy, yeah, of course I want to sell my property. yeah. 6-bed HMO in, Birmingham, or Coventry, whatever. Yeah, £1 million, how's that sound? It's like, right, these people are not motivated, right? So because of our background in engineering, we went back to thinking first principle, so what actually works, and we broke it down and in creating this, at the time it has no name, right? It was Le Software, So we built this for ourselves. After 18 months of achieving very little, the following 18 months got me, I think we bought 6 properties in that time. I was full-time in mainly HMOs. And then I was full-time in property, and, at the big surprise of my boss, I was quitting the job and stuff. So
was that a glorious feeling the day you handed in that resignation?
It was quite interesting, right? I'm very, very grateful, for the career and everything I had, the learnings, the mentoring and stuff, It's just my role went out of delivery and building into commercial, and, I just hated it that time. But it's just, as you get more senior, I guess you get more into this kind of stuff, but it just wasn't for me,
Anyone can achieve time and financial freedom through property with the right knowledge. All you need to do is download our free buy-to-let report, which covers the fundamentals of finding, funding, and filling your properties in the most effective ways possible. Take action now. click the link in the description and finally change your life. You know, building bridges, it sounds like you're making millions for other people, but not for yourself.
Yeah, zero. Yeah, definitely. And you work 15-hour days, 6-7 days a week. When I was expat, I worked in Russia, in Turkey, and you're working like 6 days a week, sometimes 13 days in a row. You'll have 1 day off every 2 weeks, and then you're like 15-hour days, you're like...
Something that you said earlier, that we find it progressive a lot. People take time to build foundations, right?
Yeah.
And so people are working and, they're doing deals they're doing viewings to try and get deals, and they're making lots of offers, and they can feel like they're not getting very far, but actually... I don't want to use too many bridge analogies, but actually they're building...
That's a long time ago.
Yes, but they're kind of building bridges, connections with contacts, with people, growing a network. And then, as you say, once the foundations are laid, then all of a sudden the deals start happening.
Absolutely agree.
But it's about getting those foundations laid, isn't it? So what do you think are the biggest blockers?
Yeah, so if you go, again, first principle is like, how do you make money in property, And sometimes there's so many ways of making money that it can be distracting. So if you label stuff, you can start to map and be clear. I think clarity is a bit overrated, and I think people get distracted. So
analysis paralysis.
Oh, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Definitely. I see this every day, right? So if you think that you make money from your rent, you make money from, different structure of rent, if it's rent to rent or different place. You make money from a lump sum, maybe you flip, you do assisted sales like you. Okay, so what feeds into this, So there's no rent without doing a deal, There's no profit play or lump sum without, flipping a property, doing the deal, All the success you want in property is downstream from your ability to do deals, And the reality is that, people get quite distracted, and they get busy being busy, doing all sorts of stuff, but not necessarily like focusing on the, the stuff that actually make the needle move. Rob talks about like income generating tasks, on his books and stuff, So, and the reality is you run out of money before you run out of ambition. If you are, any idiot can go and buy, a property after another, and it's quite forgiving, But the people who really did the distance in this game, they invest in their skill to do deals, That's like, just unlocks everything. Forget about everything else. Worry about being good at making deals, building that foundation is probably the first. The second thing I would say is probably, the second blocker is probably, people don't give themselves long enough, to make things work. So, it's easy, but it's not simple, So it's lots of very, you need to be consistent. It's quite dumb, It's like, you need to follow up, you need to put the offers, There's lots of little tasks to do all the time, which are quite repetitive. And it's almost like for some people who get into property from like a corporate background or something like that, it's almost like too dumb for them, and people overcomplicate it, If you go and strategy, like, let's say, rent to rent is the thing, or you started, rent to rent is the thing, but then, no landlords want to give me properties. I've tried for 2 weeks, it's really hard, And then we go back on Instagram and Facebook, and it's like, there's this guy talking about sourcing. Sounds amazing. Let me go on the masterclass, It's like, sourcing is the thing then. And then you go into sourcing, it's like, great. But then, wait a minute, I need to line up these investors with that deal over there. It's really complicated. Okay, commercial to resi, And that's the cancer of this industry for most people, because if people are not tolerant to the discipline of doing the work, We want it cooked for us, like right here now. We want to be millionaire this month, not next year, And you need to give yourself enough time to make things work, People will come to us in our world and say, I've tried for 2 weeks, it doesn't work. So what do you mean? How many offers have you put, How many viewings have you done, Anyone who tells me, there's no deals out there, Guillaume, I've tried, there's no deals out there, nothing stacks, so the answer is always in the question, so...
It's amazing how often the answer is, I've done lots of viewings but didn't do any offers.
There we go.
It's kind of like, well, if you didn't make the offer, you're not going to get the property. And it's so interesting what you say as well, like, people want overnight success, but I just recall, as you were speaking, I recalled what Steve Jobs said, it takes a long time to become an overnight success,
right.
Because of everything that goes on in the background, not on all the things you have to do. And yeah, if people can just stick at it for long enough, consistently, then they'll be successful.
Yeah, and there's also so many strategies that work for you, for your strategy, for you, in your area right now. Just most people will try for a few weeks, and it's hard. So and the thing is, you do this 1, 2, 3 times. The only way is just downhill there, So the more you do, the more comes to you. It's a lot easier for you to do 4 deals a year than to do 1 deal a year. It's a lot easier for you to do 10 deals a year than to do 4 deals a year. People don't realize that they're in the business of building momentum, and sometimes they sabotage their own success. So you see this all the time with people who's like, you start, you stop, start, stop, start, stop. So it's like if I were to, you drove from Oxford, I drove from Birmingham. Let's say the two of us would have come and, cycling, and then we would stop every 200 yards. We stop the bike and we start again. We stop the bike and start again. It's just we never be there. You'll never get there, And if you look at the way like exponential curves are built, it's like flat at the start and then it just goes, like this, for the same amount of time and effort. Just the reward you get is just growing and growing. But the problem is when you start, you start at the start again. So you just like, you have like 9 months of a flat line, then you stop, then 9 months of a flat line, and you just kill your momentum all the time, So to answer your question, like the big blockers I see is probably people don't have a blueprint for finding deals. They don't recognize that it's their number one skill they need, to unlock all the success they want in property. They don't give themselves enough time and longevity to try something, long enough, don't tell me it doesn't work if you've not put 50 offers, like literally. And then the third thing is they sabotage their momentum, like all day, every day, I see this. People who will do really, really well, but they're like, oh, great, I found a project, let me stop. I can see you going to do well, but it's like, how can I install more ambition into you, right? So it's going to be so much easier if you wanted just 4 deals instead of 1 or 10 instead of 4, And we get people who do like 2 deals a month, on the platform, because they get it on 5 minutes a day, It's just like, the more you do, the more comes to you.
Absolutely. And do you know what's really crazy about some of the stuff you're talking about? It's so true that you need to build that foundation, build the momentum to do that curve. And people do it for their jobs.
Yeah.
Right? People do it for their jobs that they hate. But they get better and better and better at their jobs because they stick at it.
Yeah, no one turned up to be an executive at their employer on day one, It's just a compound effect of a career thing,
Yeah, and so people do have this ability, this stick ability to make it happen. It's just this make it happen for somebody else instead of for themselves. And one of the things that we try to teach a progressive and what Property Filter embodies is the idea that you can do it for yourself. You can build financial freedom. You can build, a legacy for your kids if you want that, through property. It's just about that stickability.
I think there's urgency. I think now it's now or never, like there is some urgency, like why are you here? Like why are you on this webinar? Why are you here? What did you buy the book about property? Like what interested you, You dig a little bit and people will have 1 or 2 goals. It's either $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, basically. Every month that you are not getting $5,000 a month right now, it's costing you $5,000 a month, So invert, like Charlie Munger goes, inverting logics and stuff. So imagine you're already at this million, from the 10 years of cash flow today, but you'll be bleeding $5,000 a month every day until you get the portfolio that churns that, All of a sudden you'll feel the pain of it and, you're kicking the ass for you to go and build that portfolio, right? But yeah, just to close on this is really like there is urgency to be going out and doing deals, like for so many reasons now more than ever, right?
Yeah, totally. And because the window's closing, the opportunity is closing.
Totally.
So how do people find these deals now?
There's so many ways, there'll be so many ways of doing deals, finding deals, and I guess if we'd be like in a live room and we ask for like participation of the audience, we'll come up with 50 different ways. And this is where the confusion sort of starts, is there's so many ways. So people are a bit, overwhelmed by it all. And finding deals, doing deals, it really is a marketing and sales exercise. So how do big business do sales and marketing, So and Rob will tell you the same, it's like, okay, we have like these leaderboards, like these are the different channels where we get our leads from. These are the quality of our leads. So we need to focus more on that. But no one really talks about this in property, So, but we did this exercise actually when we at the inception of Property Filter, because we're like, wait a minute, I'm exhausting myself. I'm doing all these viewings. No one wants to do a deal, I'm sending those letters, cost me a fortune, to get nowhere. So what actually works, So what would a business do, So you might have, let's stay in the same industry and say, I'm trying to raise finance from my investors, So would you start by, going into your contact thing and ringing everyone one by one? Probably, that's, you want to max out your organic reach, you'll get a lot more success and traction to start with. We call it the friends, fool, and family, who invest with you the first time, right? But that's true. And then you build a track record with them, and then it's like, okay, I got some case studies. Now I can go broader and broader, and then to a point where it starts to be like a paid lead generation, a paid channel, But at that point, you're not throwing money through the window because you understand the messaging, You've tried and tested all the offers, the messaging with all the stuff that's free to you, So now when you run ads and I'm not saying anyone to go and run ads to raise money and stuff like that, but it just has a thought experiment. So you know exactly what people want, what makes them tick, And it's the same thing with finding deals. So what are your free channels, And then where do you start with the organic stuff, So it's very much about, okay, we need good quality leads. So we need like a lead generation system, or a blueprint or a methodology to go and generate good quality, vendor leads. And then a process to convert all these good leads into great deals, So that's very much what transformed us from, being a zero for 18 months to a hero the following 18 months. It's because we understood this and we started to focus on what worked. So we looked at property and then from first principles, okay, so what does it mean, like lead generation? So what's a good quality lead, So, and then you realize that property is very much a people business.
Absolutely.
And people buy and sell properties for all sorts of weird, irrational reasons. So, I could be the data guy and tell you to, take data in, driven decision and stuff like that. But I'll be misleading you because people come to me and say, hey, Guillaume, where's the all money out area in the UK? It doesn't fucking exist. But how do people do all money out deals? Because they find good quality leads and they create the opportunity. The deals are made, not found. So
it's that creation of the opportunity, right? And it's understanding the vendor's motivations. How can you help them, right?
So you hit this on the nail. So your quality leads are motivated sellers. So property is a people business. Deals are found from motivated sellers. So there's no point having a conversation with someone who is not motivated. I'm telling you from an experience of doing 20 viewings a week for 18 months. Like the opportunity cost of speaking with vendors where there's no deals to be made, means you are missing out on all the opportunities that are just here hidden in plain sight. So really, you need to go and identify the motivated sellers to start with, and then a process to go and convert all these good leads into great deals. So that's kind of the like the principles we kind of figured out at the time.
When we're talking about motivated sellers, at Progressive, we teach all of our students about what that actually means. What are motivated sellers? Who are these people? What are people's motivations?
So people will get motivated because they'll have urgency of certain things. So there's this thing where you have like the 4 Ds, so they're motivated because there's defect, divorce, death, debt, like these are like the causes, and then it translates in them having some urgency to hit certain deadlines, or they're just being frustrated and things like that. So then how do you pick up on these things? So from us, when we built Property Filter for ourselves at the time, it was just a very ugly, clunky tool only I could use. It was called Le Software, right? And the whole thing is that I was just fed up of wasting my time on viewings where no one wanted to do a deal. So I was like, okay, I just want to go and view properties after the sale's fallen through. That's what I want to do, And all of a sudden, I just everything blew up.
Because if the sale has fallen through, that might be someone who's been trying to sell their property. It's maybe gone through a conveyancing process for months.
Yeah.
Maybe these people need to move somewhere else because they have to. The sale has just fallen through, and now these people feel stuck. And they need someone to come along and get them unstuck, right?
Yeah. And for so many different reasons,
Yeah, for so many reasons. There's death and divorce and all of that. But, it could be like, someone's just had an opportunity for the dream job in France, and they have to leave the UK, but they need to sell their property very quickly. Or maybe they need to, just to get rid of the headache of their property, they don't actually need the money because they're getting accommodation in their new place. And then that allows you to do creative deals with these people.
Yeah.
But in order to find that stuff out, you got to be having the conversations with people, right?
Yeah, definitely. So sales falling through, coming back on the market, being reduced, maybe for sale for less than it last sold, for sale as well as to rent with multiple agents. There's lots and lots of signs we track, and basically the whole point of this is we only do 10 times fewer viewings, but having 10 times more interesting conversation, or sending 10 times fewer letters, but having 10 times more, interesting conversation. So, if every success you want in property is downstream from your ability to do deals, the methodology is very much, like find motivated sellers, have a machine basically that generate motivated seller leads. And then from there, have a process, you follow to take them from, the viewing to the offer, the follow-up, etc. And it's funny, closing the loop on what you said about people not offering, it's just crazy, I always say to the guys, if it's worth viewing, it's worth offering, if it wasn't worth viewing, don't go and view it,
Yeah, it's crazy, because, I'll be speaking to people all the time, and they'll tell me about the viewing, and I'll say, oh, it was a great viewing, and then I said, oh, well, so, how did the offer go? And they said, I didn't make the offer. And I said, well, why didn't you make the offer? And they say, I didn't think they would accept it.
Yeah.
It's not up to you to decide.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether they're going to accept the offer, right? It's up to you to make the offer. This is what people need to understand. It's all about volume as well.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
And it's a numbers game. And being motivated to get through the no's. There's a great book called Go for No, which I read recently. And every no that you get, and it's a different way of thinking, it's a different mindset thing. Every no that you get is a step closer to a yes. And the yes is inevitable. And then you can use this, to work out key performance indicators, right?
Yeah.
So if you're making
Definitely.
20 offers and you get one yes in every 20,
you're probably all right.
You're probably all right.
But if you say yes to everything, you're probably offering too much.
Yeah, exactly. You're probably offering too much. But one in every 20, that gives you an idea. Okay, so I need to get 19 no's on average to get my one yes. And then the other thing that people do is they get their one yes, right? And then they stop.
They stop everything. They
stop everything.
They kill their momentum, and we talked about it.
Yeah, and the momentum dies. And then they focus everything on this one deal and end up using a lot of time and wasting a lot of time when they could be doing more deals
yeah.
at the same time, still making more offers and building this pipeline. And I guess this is where people struggle, right? It's just that, you know, the motivation to keep going and then to find these motivated sellers.
But on putting offers, etc., and I don't want to upset the thing like that. You know, it's very, very common. And I think it's, you know, it's just we've been sort of ingrained into this, you know, by the likes of Amazon, you know, where the price is the price, you add to your basket and it's delivered to your door next day, right? It's just not how property works, you know. It's like, yeah, ignore the asking price, you know, like ignore the bloody asking price. You know, if there's one thing from the postcard you need to note down, and it's like, ignore the asking price. It just breaks my heart all the time. Exactly as you say, like people will not go and offer, oh, I don't want to upset. And as you say, it's not for you to judge or thing like that, you know. So it just prevents you from doing anything. So
and it is a weird world that we're living in because everything's negotiable.
You know, if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah.
You don't get, absolutely.
But on this, I think, you know, I think it takes a French guy to translate in his head. You're like, literally, like, you know, it's called an asking price. It's not called the price that will sell for sure price. So like, just ignore the asking price, you know.
Yep.
And if you've seen, like, the last couple of weeks ago, there was this Connell's investigation thing, you know, like some of the big corporate high street agents and the practice they have to lock vendors into agreements. So they, you know, it's
Abingdon,
like,
in my area.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right in the center of where I invest.
So whatever so basically their policy is like, whatever you think it's worth, add 15% and lock them into a 12-month agreement or 12 weeks agreement or 22 weeks agreement, you know. And they've got like crazy clause now. If vendors, you know, leave before the end of the thing, they have to pay some fees, you know. It's just like super aggressive, you know. So, and then they say, okay, we'll just then work the price down over time, you know. The market will do its work, you know. And the thing is, it creates frustration and motivated sellers. So people look at stuff and say, oh, it's overpriced. Yeah, it's great. They're going to be so fed up about the low offers, the low interest, and the old dynamics of it. So when they hit the point where enough is enough and they just fed up, you're going to be able to beat the price curve, you know. So the best way for a vendor to achieve the best possible price is to price it properly in the first place. There's nothing worse than having a property on the market for like 8 months, 9 months overpriced, and then all of a sudden they just wake up one day and they just like they go nuts. They just want to get rid, you know. But they need to be in your pipeline when this happens, so they sell to you, right? It's kind of the idea.
So what would you say is the ultimate blueprint for doing deals then?
Yeah, for me, it's very much this understanding that doing deals, you know, like property is business, you know. So you need to layer the principles of marketing and sales. So it's about quality lead generation. You want to find motivated sellers and then have the pipeline to convert all these good leads into great deals, you know. And again, on what you said about not putting offers through, if you want to be in the top 1% of investors in your area, like literally be the big fish in your pond, if everything you view, you offer, and then every offer you do, you follow up, like I guarantee, like there's only 15% of viewings that turn into offers, and then no one follows up, you know. So if you want a competitive advantage, here it is, you know. So it's simple, but it's not easy, you know. Like it's simple. What I'm telling you is like dead simple, stupid, dumb, you know. But the thing is the implementation of the, you know, the consistency of doing the dumb thing. For most of us, it's you know, most people don't do it, right? So
yeah, and I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you know, if you want to be in the 1%, you have to be willing to do what the 99% won't.
Yeah.
So you have to do something different, and you have to put these offers in, right? And you have to generate these leads. Yeah. And there'll be some people out there that don't know what a pipeline is. So what would you say? Why would you define that in property terms?
Yeah. So again, it's a big mistake you see people do where they're obsessed about this one deal, you know, because they might be new and they you know, they really like the property, right? So it's quite like a common mistake. Oh, I really like the property; it would be great for tenants, and you know, you get a bit emotional about it, and then you're trying to you're stacking it left, right, and center. You know, you're getting insurance quote to make sure, you know, like you're stacking it properly, you know, and you're spending 2 weeks looking at comparables to make sure, you know, you're trying to assess if it's worth 173 or 176. You know, you want to be sure, you know. So there's this whole analysis paralysis going on here, and you're spending all this time really focused on this one deal thing. And by the time you're doing all of that, you know, like, you know, it might be weeks and months, you know, and then obviously, you know, the vendor is moved on to something else, you know, 3 months down the line. So this can happen at different stages in terms of you getting the deal agreed, and people think like the offer accepted is the end of the game, you know, especially like sourcers, you know, they think like, oh, I got the offer accepted, all done, you know, but this is really where the work really starts. Now you want to, especially if you negotiate it well, like you want to follow it through into completion, because they'll have, you know, like sort of seller's remorse and stuff like that. They go and speak to their mate on the pub, say, you did what? You sold this for half the price, or half what it's worth, you know? So you want to really like follow through and complete. There's so many reasons why this, you know, could fall through. And the problem is if you're just obsessing about this one property here, in the due diligence, in the analysis paralysis, and getting the offer accepted, and then if you a good proportion of those sales will fall through, and if you don't have a replacement for it, like you've lost 3 months of your life, you've lost 6 months of your life, and then you have to start again, and the market's moved on, inflation's gone up, so during all that time, your $5,000 you won a month in property is just moved, it's moved by another 6 months, so you've done all of this for nothing. Like, what was the point, So you need a pipeline so that you've got multiple completions that can occur in the same time. And people struggle with the idea of like, oh, I can only offer on what I can afford, But the really good deals, like, you'll always find the money, Like, always, you'll find someone will put half of it, so you'll borrow if it's so good, So long as all the offers you put are like really, really good, you'll always have a solution on the other side. But you need a pipeline to keep this momentum, because it happens to everyone where you got this one deal and it falls through, and then you're back at square one. So the antidote basically to this, and the way you're going to continue to build momentum, is very much to have this pipeline. So you have potentially a completion that can happen every week, a completion that can happen every 2 weeks, because a lot of them won't. The vendors will go do other things and whatever. And if they do, amazing, and you see like build this momentum super quick. And it's how you go from this flat line to the curve, or you grow wealth in property.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned there about money, what we find here at Progressive is that one of the biggest blockers for people getting into property is this idea that you need a whole lot of money. And certainly for me, when I first came to Progressive, I had no money. I had no idea about property, right? Then I learned that I didn't need necessarily my own money. So for people out there who think that money is a barrier, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I think it's a mindset thing, It's this whole like money doesn't grow on tree, and we all have our own limitation with money and the worthiness of the success and stuff like that. So there might be like sometimes some more or less deep work that is necessary. But like honestly, like if we go back to the number one skill you want to invest in and build, is like your ability to be doing deals, And then if you can find good deals, people throwing money at you all the time, So if you are handing £20 notes in the street, asking for £5 notes for it, like everyone will jump on you, And if you can create value in doing deals like that, like I guarantee you, there'll be people who want to jump on it. I'd say like don't fall in the trap of just over leveraging by borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. That's not really what I would advise to do. But it's more like you'll be able to learn how to make your money. Some properties you'll flip your sales, you do assisted sales like you, and all of a sudden you've got the whole pipeline, like just dedicated in like growing a pot, like, and with assisted sales, you can double your pot every year, it's just crazy. So all this pot then goes into feeding your acquisition of buy-to-lets or HMOs or whatever you want to buy. And then when you do like assisted sales and flips, it's so transactional, you're in and out of it. You can have someone that puts the money, you do all the work, and you share the the profit. Is quite a common strategy because the margins on it can be quite high, especially on assisted sales, because you don't have the stamp duty cost, you don't have to put a deposit, you don't have to like all the financing costs and stuff like that. So all these things that eat your margin into a flip, all of a sudden you can put 20k into an assisted sales and make 20k profit, so yeah, you double your pot, so and if you do this every 9 months, 10 months, it's quite a good engine to grow a pot over there, and in combination with like you're acquiring and having the rents as a separate channel, a separate pipeline, you'll do really well, and it's super attractive for an investor to say, hey, do you want to put 20 grand and get 10 grand out of it by the end of 30k out by the end of the year,
Yeah, which is a 50% uplift, yeah. And that's the thing, there are people out there with money that want to get their money working. And they're looking for you. They're looking for people to invest their money with, that you can put it into property and get them a great return, because they're not getting a massive return in the banks right now. No. Inflation is eating all their funds, and they need people like us, property investors, to bring properties back onto the market, right? Bring properties back into stock, by flipping them or doing assisted sales with them, for example. It helps the investor. It helps with assisted sales. You're helping the seller to sell. Yep. You're giving a property to a buyer who might not otherwise buy that property, and you're increasing the housing stock as well in a country where we need more housing stock. So it's all a win-win-win-win-win.
The truth is we need houses, and then most first-time buyers and stuff like that, like in your area, people will struggle, right? So it's like most people, they just want to fall in love with the property, People come to me for property advice, like non-property investors, I'm like, don't ask me, because I'm telling you, offer less, but I really like the property. It's like, don't ask me, So if you love it, just go buy it, whatever, but don't ask me, right? So you are property investors, you're here to like grow your pot, have your lifestyle thing, so create your life by design, as it were, around these things. And it's very different mindset to the buyers, you're going to sell those properties to, once you flip them, we have assisted sale and stuff.
And that's the thing, it's a business. and it's a people business, and you can help people, but if you get too emotionally invested, you can start making mistakes. And at the end of the day, your bottom line matters, right?
Yeah.
And your systems and processes matter. And that brings us nicely to asking you a bit more about Property Filter itself. So what solutions have you brought to the market to help people with all of this stuff?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, it's powered by lots of all the property-related data you can think of, like on registries, the equivalent to having the right move, the Zoopla, the on the market, all these things in one place. But it's the reason why it works, the reason why it's the highest rated platform to find deals, the reason why, we had more than 3,250 offers accepted in the last 12 months alone. And it's just we're growing every month is because investors get results, And the reason why they get results is it's not only about the data, but it's very much about the blueprint, the methodology we layered on top of it, So unsurprisingly, you will see it's a simple blueprint. It's a two-part blueprint of motivated seller lead generation and then the pipeline on the other end, So it's all about if you want to go working with agents and make it to their little black book, on top of the pile as quickly as possible. There's a blueprint for that. If you want to go direct to vendor, you can go click a few buttons and send letters to people who are gonna, respond to your letters because they want to sell. And then this is how you generate your leads. And then you got your pipeline and this whole kind of a CRM system for deals, So any one of you who's been copy pasting Rightmove links into spreadsheets, forget that, right? So all of this is built into this one place, go-to place to go, and basically it's the deal making place, So so that's really the methodology is embedded into it, and it's all about getting people results. It's why it's quite unique.
Yeah, and that's what makes it different from other, say, softwares or things that are out there that people can use.
Yeah, it's very much the results culture,
Yes.
So I think a lot of solutions would have been built because they can, It's like, oh, here's more data, let's put more data, it's great, But the problem is you go and create another place for people to go and procrastinate, So if we go back to the big problems people have, is they'll either be, like doom scrolling, randomly booking viewings, like scrolling through pages and pages of properties they've already seen yesterday, just spending a lot of time being busy on their computer, not really doing any tasks that make the needle move. Or they'll be like the busy fools, trying to get more lucky by doing more viewings like me, So, let's do, if 10 viewings this month didn't work out, so let's do 20 viewings a week next week, You're exhausting yourself. You might have cost of travel and stuff like that. Exhausting yourself really on, speaking to vendors who don't want to do deals, and it's just you're missing out on all the deals that are in plain sight. All these things people might find themselves. And where Property Filter is quite different is we remove all of this noise, So, and it removes so much of people's dopamines that it's a bit of a shock, because you literally you sign up, and within 2 minutes, you type your area, and then you go straight to the most motivated sellers in your area. You go from like 5,000 properties across all the portals to like, here are the 20 viewings we're doing this week, and people are like, do you mean I need to make some phone calls now? Yeah. This is it, next step, right? So lead generation is basically on wheels, ready to go, doing 10 times fewer viewings, and it's just you build this momentum again and again, So I think it's quite unique. It's why we're the biggest in our space. It's why we've got 1,800 members and growing. Basically we get feedback every week, if not every day, because someone's done their first deal, their third deal, or their 30th deal on Property Filter. It's not uncommon for people to do 50, 25 deals a year, because they get, that they are in the, and obviously all the stuff I share, like we live and breathe all of this all the time, So people are like, okay, momentum, let's go, So I'm on your back.
Yeah, indeed. And I remember when I first joined Property Filter, and what you're talking about, like that dopamine thing, like it's so true, because you just click a few buttons, and then these motivated sellers and these leads just appear in front of you, and then as you say, it's just as simple as taking that next step. Simple but not easy, because you have to pick up the phone, right? And but and so you have to actually do the work. But yeah, it was crazy when I first used it, and I saw like just all of this stuff just appearing. I was like, oh, okay, that's going to save a lot of time. And with things getting faster, AI is developing, etc. What's the future of Property Filter? What does it look like?
So for us, we're going to grow this quite a bit. I was speaking with some big agencies as well. So there's obviously we serve the ordinary people, change their life for property is kind of the mission. We're going to bolt on like tools for some independent agents as well. So we recognize that there's some good people in different places. So the idea is basically continue to grow it like that. I can see a world where in like in like 2-3 years. So we're growing the community as well, basically the tutorials and the principles we talk here. It seems like people need to be reminded a few times. So it's why we run lots of calls and support, and we've got the live chat and etc. So we're going to do more into like the community aspects, just to this momentum. So I run this, it's called the momentum call every Wednesday. It's like just like we live and breathe all this stuff. So we want to give more support to people on that, because I can see from a mind that people are going to be successful whenever they join. I just need to help them understanding those principles we shared today. There's no other secret, it's all here, right? But it's the implementation of it, so we're going to help more with that. And I can see also a world where, like it's a bit speculative, but like in a couple of years' time, 3 years' time, like you could ask ChatGPT and it's just going to do a lot of this, So the moat around our castle, and it's quite unique for us, is we own our own data, It's not like we just connect to some sources and stuff. So I spend like 10 grand a month just on computing of stuff, so it's just like matching and merging all the data and things like that. So that's going to be quite valuable, and it's going to prevent, people to continue to try to copy us like they do, because we have our own data, and then I know like the data is a lot more responsive than other people in our space and stuff like that, so people like that. But I can see a world as well where, this subscription software thing might be disrupted, so I want to disrupt it myself, So
you want to be the disruptor
of and I have to be my own
your own thing. I love that.
I have to be my own disruptor, because we're working on lots of really cool stuff, because a lot of our infrastructure is linked with like OpenAI and things in the back end, with some of the things we do in terms of merging the properties and things like that, doing templates of direct-to-vendor letters, and coming out with a few really cool analysis features, which are powered by these things. Could it be that I remove a lot of the interface where, you don't have to type your criteria or use a template, you just speak to it, So that's probably where this is going in a few years' time. So yeah, that's more of that basically.
It's very cool. And, just to wrap things up a little bit, from a personal perspective, like this is clearly something you're very passionate about.
Yeah,
you want to empower people to do well in property. So what's it actually like? I mean, what's your biggest takeaway from working with investors who've been using your platform and have got success? How's that felt to you?
That's really good question. You talk about like financial freedom and stuff like that, and then you get to do the stuff you care about, So, and I never really thought of this, And as I said at the start, when we build this for ourselves, you start to get the award and things. Everyone, can I have the software? I must have told 20 people to go on their bikes, like, yeah, come on, build your own, So, and then we gave it to like a dozen of our friends. They decided to do quite well, and I was like, oh, could you add this? Could you add that? And man, I told you, like, build your own, but we'll pay you. So what do you mean? Is that a thing? Like people, so we just like, we knew nothing about it.
So it sort of became this organic thing that just sort of grew.
And I never expected today, I've grown to, because fast forward to today, like if you just look at the last 12 months, 3,250 and above offers accepted through the system, like people like being like pretty grateful of what it meant for them. And I've grown addicted to the impact we can have, and it's why our mission is very clear on helping the ordinary people. And I think there's different avatars and categories of ordinary people who want to go for it and change their lives through property. I've grown addicted to like basically the impact we have. And we wake up every day, me, the rest of the team, like we're working every day. Like we have got a channel on Slack and we just share our members win, and then every day just win, like this Trustpilot reviews, if it's someone's done another deal, someone's sold a deal, someone's done whatever, and it's like we feed off this, and it's like, okay, he's someone who is like closer from quitting their job, is someone who is now growing their ability to go on holidays and spending more time with their kids, and it's like, wow,
That's the thing, it's like more time with the family. It's like the most precious resource, right? It's more time to do what you want to do. When you want to do it, with who you want to do it, right?
Yeah. I totally agree. And all of this is an accident, like I don't need to do this, I could just live off the property stuff, and then like I reluctantly went into like growing the software, doing more of it and stuff like that. And then to a point now where it's like a mission, so because, and I also see it as there's a window of opportunity in the next sort of 2-3 years before all the ordinary people get priced out of it. And I probably have to find something else to do or whatever, but like now more than ever, we need to like write this really cool chapter all together and go and build our portfolios and change our lives with property, right?
Absolutely. And it's so great to see our values, Progressive and Property Filter, like align so well. And this is why Property Filter is a Progressive approved partner with Progressive. And we have lots of our delegates and students who use Property Filter.
We do quite well
on a daily basis, and they do really well. And So it's been really, really fantastic to speak to you today. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story and sharing the amazing power of this platform. And I look forward to hearing the continued success stories that people find for using Property Filter.
Thanks so much. Thank you, mate.